What's going on, wrestling fans? You're watching Wrestling Warm Up right here on WrestlingRumors.net. What's going on? Doug O'Mac, Doug McDonough with you here in the man cave, checking it out, just hanging out, getting ready for Raw to start. Trying to kick it easy on this Monday after a very exciting night of wrestling last night with SummerSlam. Joined right now by Chris Walter, who also is from WrestlingRumors.net, of course. Loving the Hills Have Eyes freaking logo over there. It's pretty awesome. If you missed last night, you missed an awesome version of this show that we did with Vince Russo, who said that Walter resembles the main character from the
Only a little bit. Only a little bit.
It's only when the shadows hit you just right in the house. That's what it is. It's not about.
I'm pretty. No,
That still just makes me die out laughing. For you guys that are in the chat, thanks for joining us. We're going to need your input here. It's just us two rocking this thing out with you tonight. We're going to be talking about, I love the fact that even Ed is talking about that I'm dressing down with Vince Russo not being on the show. Have you been watching Wrestling Warm Up? This is usually the get-up that I have when we're doing these shows, Ed. You should know.
But are we wearing pants, though? That's the question.
I am not wearing pants. I wasn't wearing pants last night. I don't wear pants for these things. I don't know who.
Can you see our legs, people?
I don't know who or why you think I would put on pants to talk to you when you're only going to see me from the chest up. I don't know why you would expect me to do that. As soon as I come home, I'm old school, man. As soon as I come home, the first thing I do, the pants come off. All right.
SpongeBob SquarePants boxers all day.
You know the reason I didn't have a hat on yesterday. The reason I had an actual like flannel shirt on. I do things on Sundays. I had church that I was doing. I do things. I was out doing things around the town. I don't wear I don't wear this all the time, and I don't wear this to dress down or to dress up. I do whatever the heck I want, and you just have to deal with it. If I could.
Well, Jazz thinks I'm handsome in my own way, and that way, it's the right way.
If I have to borrow from Drax the Destroyer, I will. But Punk and Wrestling, who created a freaking meme of me last night, which I thought was absolutely hilarious, said that I look like a furry orange. You always look like a furry orange. I'm guessing.
The best kind of fruit, by the way.
A orange that's furry. I don't know. But orange is my color, man. I love Clemson Tigers. I'm a Clemson graduate, 2007. My hand, if you cut it open, will bleed orange. Most of my attire, if it's not,
You bleed orange?
I do bleed orange. It's bad. Well, it is healthy. It's Tiger pride. If I don't have on a button down or a wrestling shirt that we get for free or that I get from a show, then yes, I'm probably rocking something that has to do with Clemson Tigers or something that is orange. That's how we roll. But let's talk about something that's red. Let's talk about Monday Night Raw. We're gonna get into this and just talk for a little bit and shoot some crap. I want to talk about Raw tonight before we even. I want to talk about SummerSlam for sure because this will be the first outlet other than Twitter, other than WrestlingRumors.net editorials like one that you did last night that was excellent, Mr. Walter. Before we talk about those things, before we hit on SummerSlam, I just want to talk about Raw for a second. We know that if you've read the 5-point preview on WWE.com, and maybe you have not, and you're joining us for us to talk about that tonight, we will talk about this in more details in about 5 minutes. The only thing I want to bring up about Raw before we talk about SummerSlam is the fact that tonight we're going to get a new title. And we're probably going to get new titles all the way across the board, and I'm excited about that. We'll get more into detail about that in a second. 5-point preview, though, I want to give you a heads up of what we're going to be talking about here soon. Lesnar's champion. We're going to get new titles all the way across the board, new logo everywhere. If you saw our new warm-up graphic for Monday nights, it's because the rebranding. I decided to give us a new branding for this show as well. Obviously, we're going to see something to do with Nikki Bella and Brie Bella. Why? I don't know. We're going to talk about that in a minute. The Authority looks as strong as ever as far as Stephanie McMahon goes. We're going to talk about that. Where does Randy Orton go from here? We're going to talk about that. Roman Reigns successfully defeated him in what was an amazing match at SummerSlam. We're going to talk about that as well. And some people didn't like that. And I don't understand how they didn't like that match, but we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about we have a new Intercontinental Champion. We have a new Divas champion, and we don't have new tag team champions because they weren't even on the show. We have part-timers that may be leaving at this point, and all of this comes to head tonight. Will John Cena be on the show? Will Chris Jericho and Bray Wyatt continue to Night of Champions? All these questions we're going to talk about in the next hour or so, hanging out with you guys here on Wrestling Warm-Up. But first, let's get into SummerSlam. SummerSlam reaction. Chris Walter, what is your reaction of the entire show?
It surprised me because it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It's probably the second best pay-per-view of the year, behind WrestleMania, at least in my opinion. We were talking about it amongst ourselves in our little chat on Facebook. We were blown away by especially the first 3 matches on the card because none of us picked anything right. Not one of us picked Rob Van Dam to win the pre-show match against Cesaro. No one on staff picked Dolph Ziggler to win the Intercontinental Championship, and then very few of us had Paige winning the title. I had her winning via disqualification, which John Alba pointed out.
John Alba is the only
50 times
person that got
night.
that right.
He's the only one who got that right. That's his Usos pick. That's Usos. I have the Usos.
Well,
he has Paige winning the
at least let him have something.
I will give it to him. I'm being nice today, Doug.
I had Rusev Viscount out the other at Battleground. I'm the only one that had that. So let's just.
You bleed orange, I bleed red because I have a heart that's pure, Doug. That's how I roll here in Canada. Canadian red, by the way. But
as is tradition.
The rest of the show, I mean, it was pretty solid. There wasn't one match that stood out in my mind that was just awful. I mean, but even before the pay-per-view, I said Stephanie McMahon versus Brie Bella was going to be a train wreck. Yeah, it wasn't a classic, but it was pretty good. The Nikki Bella thing was pretty predictable. I mean, what are they going to do? Have a match at Night of Champions for custody of the Twitter account? I don't know what's going on there. Yeah. But and then Brock Lesnar versus John Cena, which was 20 minutes of Lesnar literally beating the pulp out of John
with one move.
He German suplexed him 16 times. It's all he did.
It's like he's freaking playing Mortal Kombat with you in 1993, right when the game came out, and this guy has studied every single move and is trying to pull off, freeze, rip your head off with Sub-Zero, and this guy just comes in and goes, man, I'm going to pick the chick and just sweep you. He just sweep, win.
That's like playing my girlfriend in friggin' SmackDown versus Raw, and all she can do is an arm drag, and she beats me with an arm drag. That's not fair,
drag.
But it works. Arm drag.
Arm bar. Yeah,
Four-handled family credenza, whatever the hell that was called. But, I love
Who can say all 104 of Chris Jericho's moves? We can. That's
Arm
right.
bar.
You're watching Wrestling Warm-Up on WrestlingRumors.net, where we know what really matters. But yeah, no, I thought that SummerSlam was great. When my buddy texted me right around 10:15 or so. He came in at the end of the Bella and McMahon match, and he was watching it on his iPad using someone else's network subscription. And came in and started talking to me about what was going on. And was like, dude, this Roman Reigns Randy Orton match is phenomenal. And then it was, holy crap, Brock Lesnar's destroying John Cena. That's not what I expected. And I was like, bro, if that's not what you expected, let's just talk about the fact this entire thing was #SummerSwerve. We talked about it before. The build was awful for this pay-per-view. Raw for the last 4 weeks was super boring. I was doing a lot of multitasking during Raw and not really paying attention because it just didn't. We didn't need it. We knew exactly what the matches were going to be coming out of Battleground. Once Battleground was over, we were like, okay, we know what the matches are going to be. And then it was, I'm just excited to see the match because they did nothing to keep my attention during Raw each and every week. The only thing that really kept my attention were all you faithful WrestlingRumors.net fans that have been live tweeting me. And us having a little bit of fun on there. I will say that I've learned that there's a trend here. When the Raws and SmackDowns building up to a pay-per-view are bad, it's because they already know what they're building towards is the pay-per-view being good. The pay-per-view was excellent last night. And then when the build's awesome, like towards Battleground, where we're like, dude, I'm stoked. Nope, not going to happen. That happens so often. It happened so many times last year. And this is the exact same place we're sitting as where we were last year. We did a SummerSlam reaction show last year. We were all jacked up because SummerSlam was so, good. Payback was so good. Money in the Bank was so good. SummerSlam was so good. Daniel Bryan wins the championship. Randy Orton cashes in. Swerve. This is awesome, blah, blah, blah. And then we went into the next 4 months of WWE television and pay-per-views being absolutely terrible. And so I'm kind of a little weary of where we're about to go in this fall season. Especially because there's a bunch of big question marks about what we're doing with John Cena, what we're doing with Brock Lesnar. We're going to talk about all this in detail, so hang around with us. Give us your opinions in the chat room. If you're not in the chat room, what are you doing? Get over there. If you're having issues trying to watch the show, I don't know why you need to concentrate on our beautiful faces unless you just are just obsessed with seeing us. But if you want to watch the show and chat at the same time, I understand that there's some issues there for some of you. I would just pop the show out in YouTube, watch it there, chat in the chat room, and that way we can both talk to you guys and talk about what we're getting to. But, man, I thought the Lumberjack match was probably the best Lumberjack match in the history of professional wrestling. I've seen a number of them. I've never wanted to go back and watch a Lumberjack match again. It's exactly what I did when the show went off the air last night. I got in bed with my wife, and once she fell asleep, I rewatched the Lumberjack match, and that was the first one I went back to. And I have to say, I have never rewatched the Lumberjack match before by my own will, and that was it's excellent from start to finish, excellent, except for the little slap that Kane gives Goldust, which is awful. Never should have had that happen. But I thought that it was a great match. The Divas swerve was cool. I mean, half of our like you said, 3 people that did predictions on our website picked Paige. You picked her at least by DQ. John Cena actually picked the title change, which was, I mean, that was one of those things we talked on the show last night with Vince Russo. A lot of these matches were up in the air. I mean, you didn't know what the outcome was going to be, but you knew how they were looking at booking this thing, because we think Night of Champions is what they're going to be booking towards to get the network subscriptions. Now I'm going, dude, how does Night of Champions beat SummerSlam? How are they going to book Night of Champions to get an even better draw on the network? And that's what we need to talk about, Walter. I mean, you have a new Intercontinental Champion, you have in Dolph Ziggler, you have a new Divas Champion who, you can have AJ Lee and Paige again. You can have Miz and Dolph Ziggler again. That was a good match, by the way. We need to talk about that. The Intercontinental Championship match was good. Ziggler and Miz both. Miz had a great match last night. For people that are always talking about Miz being not so good in the ring, but showcases his talent more on the mic, I agree to a certain extent. Except last night it was an on night, and you can say that it's because he was with Dolph Ziggler, but I liked it. I thought it was a good match. Do you think that this Intercontinental feud will continue between the two?
I hope not. I'm not going to lie, I didn't give that match the attention it probably deserved, just because I was under the impression that The Miz was going to win and it was just going to be like a straightforward, catches him with a skull-crushing finale that finishes him off. Although he did hit the move last night and Ziggler kicked out. He only hit a nonchalant pin, but it is what it is. Still surprised that Ziggler's Intercontinental Champion. I mean, I'm kind of getting used to Ziggler being buried. I mean, he was what Cesaro is now, basically, where he's losing every week. He could put on a great match, but he's not going to go over. Now things are looking a little bit different, and I was under the impression that at Night of Champions we were going to get a Sheamus versus Miz match to possibly unify the IC and US titles, but now that Ziggler's IC champ, I don't know if they're really going to go in the direction of a face versus face. I think they're just going to keep both titles separate at this point, and they're just going to go on with their respective feuds. Maybe we get Ziggler versus Miz. I don't know. I think there's other roads they can go down at this point. I've been hearing reports that maybe they might do a ladder match between Miz and Ziggler just because both of them have experience winning ladder matches. Maybe that would go over great. I'm not sure at this point. The mid-card and the mid-card titles are still such a mystery to me.
And I'm not going to lie to you. I would not... I think that it's time for a ladder match, just a straight-up ladder match for a title. I mean, I know that we got that for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship not too long ago. But at the same time, when's the last time that a mid-card title has been defended in a ladder match? That makes me feel like that the title actually means a little bit more. And I'm not one that will go and say that titles in professional wrestling really mean anything. It's a scripted sport. They know who they're gonna give the titles to. What it means is that they trust in you to be over. They trust in you to work hard. They trust in you to be a face. I'm not saying they're necessarily the face, but I'm saying a face of the company. They know that Dolph Ziggler is such a workhorse. They've put titles on him before. This is not the first time he's held this, and it's one of those times where I think that Ziggler consistently shows that he's amazing as far as what he does in the ring every single week. And I would love to see a ladder match between Miz and Dolph Ziggler.
But here's the problem with the ladder match, though. It's almost as if WWE is accustomed to keeping those specialty matches on their specialty pay-per-views. That's why we rarely see a Hell in a Cell match that's not on the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. I mean, we had a special, one-night attraction when Undertaker and Triple H fought at WrestleMania 28, but that's it. That's why I don't see ever a ladder match happening that's not at the Tables and Ladders and Chairs pay-per-view. Maybe if this feud runs until then, which I'd be very surprised about, because I think that goes in like December or something. It's still a while away. So if they have a ladder match at Night of Champions, I'll be shocked. I mean, knowing our luck, it's just going to be Ziggler defending against Miz. They'll do another solid opening match, and then, Ziggler goes over, I guess. I don't know. Miz lost the title 1 month after winning it. Maybe they'll swerve us again.
Oh, the last time the Miz lost the title, when he won the title on a kickoff show and then lost it the next night. You remember that, right?
Yeah, but is that a good sign for Miz though? Because if you're going to put the title on Ziggler at SummerSlam, why not just have him win the Battle Royal?
In my opinion, it's it allowed them to promote the Marine 4 for 4 weeks, very strongly. This is your new movie star of this movie. It's not going to be a big movie, but it's gonna, they need to promote it, and they need to have the Miz out there as the face of the movie. Put the title on him, make him talk about the fact he's in this movie every single week, and that gets you some promotion.
He did not need the Intercontinental title to do that, though.
No, but I think that it helped. I think that it helped him. He's I can't even talk right now. He's the Intercontinental Champion. So when he is doing radio, when he's doing TV, and he's promoting this movie that's going straight to DVD and on demand, he at least has a title on him. If there's anything that we know WWE loves to do, it's when people are coming on their program to promote movies, to promote extra things that they're doing, they like for them to be carrying their gold on to the shows that they are promoting this thing for. It allows for brand recognition, especially with logos and such on them. It allows them to talk about the prestige of the title, even if that title has been run into nothing, as the IC title has. It's one of those things where it's just easier to promote. It's easier to get that guy on different things because he is a champion. And for me, it allows us. It allowed for a good moment last night. It allowed for a title change on a pay-per-view that we didn't expect to happen. None of us picked Dolph Ziggler to win the title. None of us.
It was a cool moment. I just didn't understand the logic behind it. There's a reason why we picked the Miz.
I know, but I think that and that was all of us just saying his new character as a heel is getting. He got some serious heat before the match, which was great.
I said on Twitter when he cut that promo, there's cheap heat, and then there's your sports team sucks heat, and that's what Miz did last night. I think that's the crappiest kind of heat. That's what Damian Sandow was doing with his Indiana Pacers jersey.
Listen, now you're nitpicking.
That kind of heat.
It is.
I am nitpicking.
It's the same thing. It's cheap heat. It's the same thing, and that's cheap heat. If you go in there and you, that's the best way. Good Lord, you can't say that you hate cheap heat. But you love cheap pops. Mick Foley would come out.
I don't like cheap pops either.
Oh, get out of here.
That's like when R-Truth says, "Great Wisconsin." I hate that.
It's the whole point of professional wrestling. Do whatever it takes if you're a heel, to get heat, and do whatever it takes if you're a face to get the fans behind you. And
where's my chat room friends at? Back me up here. What's your thoughts on cheap heat?
Whatever.
Cheap
okay,
pops?
if they want Dolph Ziggler, who already has a great reaction organically from the crowds wherever he goes, if they want the place to explode when he wins the title, why not have Miz come in, trash the fans that are there, get heat on him before the title change? And when you saw exactly what happened last night, the crowd went crazy with Dolph Ziggler got that Intercontinental Championship. It worked.
Just saying, brother.
It worked. It was exactly what they was supposed to do. Go in there, get heat, and then give him the title. Make the fans go nuts.
The pop for Dolph Ziggler was more about the fact that, holy crap, Ziggler won a title than, holy crap, he just beat The Miz.
But to the marks that go ahead and think that, let me address you for a second. And let me address the guys that were talking to me last night, and we'll get more into this in a second, but the guys that were coming at me pretty hard on Twitter saying Brock Lesnar didn't deserve the championship. Brock Lesnar doesn't need to be champion. He's a bore. He doesn't draw. He just did a few moves and that's it. And that was a terrible match. And I fell asleep and it was bad. And there's no way that this guy should ever hold the championship. He's a part timer. Blah 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 blah. again, this is a title that is won in a scripted sports entertainment match. This is this is one of those things where, yes, it shows that they have respect for someone for a second to put it on them. And I agree. Pop for Dolph Ziggler. He deserves to have recognition like this. But at the same time, it's the IC title. Okay? If we've learned anything about the IC title as of late, it's more of a curse for someone to be holding on to this title than it is a privilege. Dolph Ziggler is going to have to go out every single day and make sure that he's making the title's not making him. Because if the title makes him a la Cesaro, a la Big E, a la Curtis Axel, if these superstars that hold this belt, if they're expecting the IC title to make them, instead of going out and making sure that they're making the IC title relevant, then their career is going to go down the chute, just like those guys I mentioned. Cesaro lost on the kickoff show last night. And we're going to talk about that because I have not lost hope. I have not lost hope for Dolph Ziggler. I still think they can use him, and he can go out there and steal the show every night and make that IC title mean something again. He can do that, okay? I know that he can. I have faith in Dolph Ziggler. He's an amazing worker. He gets over, and ladies love him. Men want to be him because he's getting all the ladies. If in the realm of sports entertainment, if you will, and the fact that he is incredible in the ring, goes out there, sells like freaking Shawn Michaels on ecstasy, like where he just sells like nobody else ever has, taking some of the biggest freaking bumps that you could ever take, and just selling them brilliantly. I really feel like that it's one of those things where I have trust in him and I have faith in him. And let's talk about Cesaro. I have faith in Cesaro. I have faith that Cesaro could come out of this. If you watched the WWE 2K15 roster reveal, I've gone back and watched it. Cesaro steals this thing. His charisma is all over the place. He's making the most smart comments, like the most just sarcastic comments to get his personality across on TV. It was amazing. And I'm just like, why don't they let him do this on TV more? Now, that being said, 3 weeks ago when he went head-to-head with John Cena, when they actually gave him time to speak, he let that personality come out and everybody got behind him. That's the thing. The reason they're not letting him, and this is what we talked about with Vince Russo last night on this show, the reason that Cesaro's not getting airtime every week with a microphone, the reason Cesaro is not going over in matches right now is because they don't want the fans to give him that organic push that he was getting at WrestleMania 30 time. And when he gets the microphone and when he showcases his personality in the ring with the big swing, with being sarcastic he did the freaking Rolling Thunder into a stomp last night on the kickoff show. It was awesome. It's one of those things where and it was he had this sarcastic smile on his face after he did it, and everybody popped for him. Why? And he's getting stopped because they don't want the growth for him right now. They don't want him to getting over. And as Russo said, as I constantly say, I don't understand, outside of somebody not wanting him to have that in the back, I don't understand why WWE, who is and we're going to talk about this because you wrote an excellent piece about it, when WWE is severely lacking top stars that are over with the crowd, why would you kill someone that's getting pushed like this from the fans? Why would you kill an organic growth like Cesaro has gotten? Why? It's got to be something personal backstage.
Maybe Cesaro looked at Stephanie McMahon the wrong way or something. I don't know what the deal is. Yeah, I don't get why they're just burying this guy. They took away his giant swing, which was super over with the fans. I always felt his best work was with the Real Americans, with Jack Swagger and Zeb Coulter. That dynamic between the three of them was perfect, and I hated the fact that they were just ripped apart from us so soon. And then on the Raw after WrestleMania, when Cesaro aligned with Paul Heyman, we thought that was the next step, but towards him being a solid main eventer. Yep. And that crashed harder than maybe the Curtis Axel experiment did. So at this point, I see the fact that you can almost say, you know what, he's losing now, he's going to garner sympathy from the fans, and then he'll eventually get that giant push that we all think he's deserving of. But when is it happening? I'm not so sure. It might be a while.
It may be next year. I really don't see it happening this year, but I think that he can... I really think that he can have some really good matches with Dolph Ziggler, with Sheamus, in that upper mid-card tier at this point. I really think they could use him in that right now. And then those guys, just like it has been for the entire existence of professional wrestling, the upper mid-card guys that are holding these mid-card titles should be the ones that are getting organic growth from the fans and getting over and then moving from upper mid-card, boom, up to main event. what we're seeing in this era of this reality era, whatever you want to call it, I don't know what they're going to call it now that they're rebranding everything on the show tonight. One of those things where these guys aren't being, the guys that have been in the mid-card for the last 4 years, your Dolph Ziggler's, your Wade Barrett's, your Sheamus got a quick start into main event status when he wasn't ready for main event status. I think that Sheamus could instantly go back to main event status if he became an aggressive heel like he was when he came in. But he's too childish and kiddie and fella and everything else right now. Even though he's playing one of the biggest villains of all time in a movie coming out next year. But it's one of those things where I really feel like, man, we've jumped ship a little bit. Guys that have come up from NXT, such as The Shield and Bray Wyatt, jumped ahead of these guys that have been there for 4 years. For me, you could instantly put Bray Wyatt in a main event, thanks to John Cena, and that it'll be okay, and he'll work with whoever he wants in the main event, and it'll be good. I think the same way with your obviously Roman Reigns passed the test last night. Excellent match with Randy Orton, in my opinion. I know that you enjoyed that match as well, and it's one of those things where Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, they jumped Ziggler and Cesaro and all these guys as well, and I think the stopping of Cesaro's push, majorly, I think the stopping of Cesaro's push, the stopping of Dolph Ziggler's push, I think that all came because they saw that the fans were connecting with the Shield more, and so they're going to push these Shield guys better. And I'm not arguing with that because I do think Dean Ambrose is the closest thing to Stone Cold Steve Austin we've seen since Austin retired, and I think that he can be that big star. And I will stamp my hand on something and say this guy can be another Steve Austin if they allow it to happen. And Seth Rollins, we talked about it last night, he was the odd man out when they broke up the Shield. He needed to have the heel push. He needed to have the briefcase. It's working for him currently, and I think it'll continue to work for him in the future. And then, of course, Roman Reigns is getting the Triple H push because he looks like a superstar. And, it's one of those things where he passed the test last night. We're going to see these guys come up into the main event faster than the other guys that have been there, but I'm not going to not believe that Cesaro is going to get there sometime because he's so good, and when he's allowed, when he gets an entrance, the only thing is they're killing him with his entrance music too. It's so bad. But one of those things where when he gets a chance, when he's finally let loose to get over with the crowd, he's going to. I'm not going to, I don't have any faith that Kofi Kingston can get over. I'm losing faith that Big E is ever going to get over as a main event guy. I don't believe that The Miz is ever going to be back at the main event. It's one of those things where I don't have faith in those guys, but Ziggler, Cesaro, I have faith they'll get back up there.
Yeah, I mean, we're all high on the Dolph Zigglers and the Cesaros of the world, but I just think there's like a pecking order right now, and WWE has their next tier guys like Roman Reigns, who, by the way, I mean, he went over Randy Orton at SummerSlam. I am still not that this guy's ready to be in that top spot yet. As good as his performance was, Randy Orton was the one who looked better, and he lost the match when he had that power slam coming out of the spear, and then the RKO in midair, his pandering to the crowd. I was like, man, when Orton gives a damn, he's an A-plus player. He hasn't been that way in recent months, but that was the best I've seen Orton in quite some time. It almost overshadows everything that Roman Reigns was doing.
Dude, Randy Orton proved, I think he turned it on last night to prove a point. Because I think that Randy Orton also feels that he is still in this, and he can still add to the main event like nobody else can at this point where he is. And I think he proved a point, man. He got in there and said, and I think that's what we talked about last night. There needs to be some internal competition between these guys too. That Roman Reigns isn't going to just come straight out of freaking NXT after being on the main roster for a year and take my spot. I've been here for 10, 12 years. I'm going to show everybody in this match. I'm going to put him over. And I'm going to show everybody who the actual star in the ring is by the way I work. And, that's we saw that with Rock and Austin. We saw that with Triple H and Undertaker. We saw that in the Attitude Era. 4 or 5 guys that wanted to be on top. They had to prove themselves consistently. And, it's one of those things where Orton, a year and a half ago, Orton wasn't doing it. He was boring. He was just phoning it in. But then when Orton started working with Daniel Bryan and God, I can say it, working with Kane and then started being the face of the WWE, working with the Authority. Some of his acting is still terrible as far as what he does, saying stuff in the ring, but he is still an amazing in-ring talent, and he showed it last night. That was an excellent freaking match, and it was almost all on Randy Orton. One of the best RKOs we've seen in a very long time. That was perfectly done, perfectly set up, perfectly timed. They finally connected on the spear into the power slam. That was such a sick spot there. If anybody didn't remember, the reason that you see a scar on Roman Reigns' eye right here is because they tried to pull that off overseas, and Randy Orton's elbow destroyed Reigns' freaking eye socket. So they connected with that on pay-per-view, which was awesome. Great match. It elevates Roman Reigns. He has a win over Randy Orton, and they're going to address that on Raw tonight for sure, because Triple H said that that Roman Reigns is going to be a thorn in the Authority's side unless Randy Orton gets rid of him. Obviously, Randy Orton didn't get rid of him, and now we have an issue. So Triple H might have to step in and handle good old Roman Reigns at Night of Champions. But excellent match, really good. RVD, as we were talking about Cesaro, RVD went over Cesaro. I called that freaking spot, that five-star frog splash into the uppercut. I called that spot. I even called that spot last week when I was giving you my predictions. I said, look, that's what's going to happen. They added this match. It's nothing more than a spot match. Whether RVD gets a win because he's leaving or not, that spot's happening. And the spot happened, and it was sick. And then, of course, it was a good match. It was a good opening match. But RVD gets the win, and he's gone probably until Royal Rumble. I would expect him to come back at Royal Rumble. What do you think?
I could care less at this point when Rob Van Dam comes back. I mean, he makes his sporadic appearances here and there. He's not really booked to look that strong. I mean, last night against Cesaro, that was the first time I can remember in a long time where Rob Van Dam was booked to go over with a victory. And it was peculiar just because considering he's about to be leaving, why would you book him to win? Because that's usually the opposite logic of what WWE does, but considering how SummerSlam paid out, the opposite is what they kind of went with, so RVD got the victory. You can come back at the Royal Rumble, that's fine. Maybe throw him in like a mid-card thing at WrestleMania, but other than that, I think the RVD train has just left the station long ago.
I will say, even though he didn't win very many matches, which I'm not expecting part-timers that come in like that to win a lot of matches, but they're supposed to have excellent matches that put other people over. The first month or two of RVD coming back this go around, he had to shake some ring rust off, and that's rare for RVD, man. He usually just comes right back in and never misses a step. The first time when he came back last year, Money in the Bank, that whole run that he was on for Money in the Bank last year all the way till he left was excellent. Matches with Chris Jericho on Raw, matches with all these other guys on pay-per-views, Alberto Del Rio, that was a great match. Those matches were excellent. He came back this year, a little sluggish at the beginning, but I will say the last few weeks he's turned it on. Since he was injured in some way, shape, or form, is what we reported, is what was going around, that he injured something. When he came back, he did 2 matches. He worked in Australia, then he came back and worked on Raw with Seth Rollins. That was a good match. And then he worked on SmackDown, and then he worked this past pay-per-view. And I thought that those 3 matches were good. So I'm not going to discredit RVD. Honestly, I've been an RVD fan since ECW days. I was a big ECW fan and a big mark for them. I'm a big RVD guy, but I will say, yeah. I mean, this year's little run, he didn't really show me anything outside of the last couple weeks. So I'm excited to see Cesaro move forward from this, and farewell RVD for the next 90 days or however long you're gone. We'll catch you when you come back. But as far as this AJ Lee Divas thing, where JR even said before SummerSlam aired, JR in his blog last week, on his podcast last week actually, when he was giving some predictions for SummerSlam, he expects AJ Lee to bow out when her contract expires, which is supposed to be soon. So, what do you think? Do you think that we saw AJ Lee come? Do you think that she's just here to run out her contract, put Paige over as a heel-ish character, and then move on and go be a wife and a mom?
Well, it certainly helps because, I mean, Paige was treading water for a while before AJ Lee came back, and it gave her that, the rough exterior again, the heel that we all came to love in NXT. And last night, I think that was the best heel Paige we've seen since she's debuted in WWE. I thought the match was good. It was better than the one they had at Battleground. I wish they had more time to really, drag it out a bit and get some more moves in, get some more heat. But At the end of the day, it was cool. I snapshotted when Paige was leaning over AJ Lee, and then Jerry Lawler with his googly eyes staring at the announce table. That's a meme right there. But yeah, I wasn't surprised by Paige winning the Divas Championship, because I think with that title in that division, you can play hot potato with that thing, and no one's going to complain like they would with like the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Paige needs the title now more than AJ, and in a division where there's no real strong heels, have Paige be that girl, and then AJ chase her until her contract expires, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the issue with her if she wants to leave when her contract's up. I don't think that they're going to enact the Rey Mysterio clause, if you will, and try to keep her. Her husband's gone. That's not an issue. I don't see her leaving being an issue, except for she's probably been the most popular diva they've had since she debuted. And I think that's why she was trying to get Paige over into that spot, give Paige the crazy heel chick gimmick, because that's what made AJ Lee successful. And maybe we'll see something come out of that. But I mean, I'm gonna keep enjoying seeing AJ Lee out there every single week until she's gone. I'll tell you that right now.
And as good as AJ Lee is, I mean, if she leaves, you still have Brie Bella's being booked as like this top diva face.
Ugh.
You have Naoma waiting in the wings, and then there's a whole crop of talent down in NXT. Maybe Charlotte gets brought up as a face. Who knows? You have Paige versus Charlotte.
I'm excited about that. We're gonna see Paige versus Charlotte. Charlotte's supposed to be getting fast tracked up here at the NXT Takeover 2. She's facing Bayley. And she's supposed to drop the title to Bayley so that she can come up, because they know that AJ Lee is probably on her way out, and Charlotte can freaking work, dude. She is so freaking good in the ring.
And by the way,
she's not bad to look at either.
By the way, to Jazz in the chat room, Paige was a heel in NXT, not in her later days, but in her earlier days, she was definitely a heel.
Yes, she was. I mean, she was aggressive. She was the anti-diva. She was the, I'm gonna kick your butt. I'm British and I am fierce is what she was. And then, fans started getting, again, when a heel's really good, fans are going to start cheering for him. They're going to get over. That's the whole purpose of a heel. Be a heel, make people hate you at first, and then whenever they're thinking about wanting, if you start getting over, they should push you. That's the whole point of a heel. That's how heels become faces, guys. No, not everyone is always a face. You've seen John Cena as a face for 14 years. That doesn't mean that he's always been a face. If anybody remembers, he started as a freaking heel. Or he came out as a face at first, and that didn't work. So they had to make him a heel. But let's continue talking on about Ambrose and Rollins. What we think is going to happen here. Obviously, the lumberjack match was freaking incredible. And now we have Rollins smacking Ambrose in the head with the briefcase. Kane is the one that really turned the tide of the match. So obviously we're going to have Ambrose and Kane and Rollins in some kind of interaction tonight. What do you think we see from that?
I have no idea where they're going with this whole Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose thing. It's probably going to involve Kane, like you said, but at this point, corporate Kane, mass Kane, I'm just kind of over Kane, period. Kudos to both guys, though, for their lumberjack match last night. We both pooped on it just because it's a lumberjack match. How many great lumberjack matches have there been in company history? 0. But last night, that all changed. That was clearly one of the greatest lumberjack matches of all time, if not the greatest. The Lumberjacks didn't do their job whatsoever. You got to keep the guys in the ring. Those two were going out into the crowd, but that's what made the match unique, and it made it stand out from all other Lumberjack matches. Then you have Seth Rollins coming to the ring at the end, smack Ambrose in the head with the briefcase, and that's exactly why me and you picked him on our staff picks, because it allows this feud to continue. If Ambrose goes over clean last night, it almost kind of puts like a halt to what's going on. You want Ambrose to continue being pissed at Rollins. I could see Ambrose losing the next 2 or 3 pay-per-views if they continue going against Rollins, and that won't hurt Ambrose at all.
It doesn't make Ambrose weak. No.
Continue to get strong, and right now it looks like I would take him as like the brightest star out of all 3 Shield guys.
Oh yeah, definitely, and I don't think that it makes him weak. He didn't outright, there had to be interference for him to lose the match last night. You understand that, people? Like, there had to be a distraction, and that's what you and I both called. There had to be a distraction, there had to be some kind of interference. A lot of the other guys picked Dean Ambrose to go over clean, and there was just no way in my mind that could happen, because Seth Rollins, if he tries to, the whole deal between them right now is that if he ever tries to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase, Dean Ambrose is going to come out there and stop him. I mean, that's the whole point. Like, Dean Ambrose is chasing Rollins. He's trying to punish Rollins for turning on the Shield, and he's yet to get that gratification. And as long as they drag this out as he's chasing that gratification, of giving Rollins exactly what he deserves, man, they can keep going for this thing another 3 or 4 months at least. And if you do that, then you can put the briefcase on the line at TLC. But if they are wanting to fast track this thing, and I'll give you a scenario in a minute that I think they could fast track it, and it makes sense if they have all these issues with Brock Lesnar. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Then I think that this could work, and I'm gonna have everybody in the chat room give me your thoughts and all this kind of stuff. Let's take a break before we get into Raw, because we've just talked about SummerSlam, the entire card. I want to talk about Raw and what we're going to see tonight. We've got I laid out the 5-point preview. We're going to hit on every single point. But before we do, there's some other things going on. There's some TNA news we need to talk about. Kurt Angle is coming up. He's supposed to be his contract is over on September 21st, which is the same night as Night of Champions. He could literally jump ship, pull a Lex Luger, and show up on the show if he wants to. If WWE does sign him, which he's interested, he's trying to get them to agree to some kind of contract that's more like a Chris Jericho contract where he works limited dates, or more like a Shawn Michaels contract at the end of Shawn Michaels' career. He didn't work a lot of house shows. Even Jericho's been working house shows. He doesn't want to work a lot of house shows. He wants to work 2 or 3 Raws going into a pay-per-view, work the pay-per-view. Work 2 or 3 Raws going into the pay-per-view, work the pay-per-view. That's the kind of schedule that Kurt Angle wants. We're going to have to see if they give that to him. Where do you think Kurt Angle fits in if he comes back in September or October?
And here's the thing. I'm a big Kurt Angle fan. He's one of my favorites of all time. But, in the state that WWE is in right now, I don't think there's really a spot for Kurt Angle. And it's sad to say, just because, one of the greatest in-ring performers of all time, both on the mic and between the ropes, you think there has to be a spot for someone like that. But right now, I think there's just so many different guys in the mix. You have Roman Reigns getting his push. You have Ambrose and Rollins doing their thing. Brock Lesnar is the champion. Batista's coming back. You have Daniel Bryan returning, hopefully sooner rather than later. It's like, what can you do really with Kurt Angle? And you've said before, maybe he's that American that finally goes over Rusev. I just don't think Angle's going to be willing to do that. If he comes back to WWE, he wants to be up there with the top-tier talent. He wants to be fighting the Cenas, Lesnars, and Triple H's of the world. He's not going to be going down to the mid-card and starting with a guy like Rusev, even though, he worked in TNA and he was putting guys over left and right. I don't think that's kind of how he wants to end his career. He wants to be at the upper level where he thinks he belongs, and rightfully so. So with his contract expiring in September, is the possibility of him coming back to WWE? Absolutely. It's just, with the reports saying maybe Triple H and Vince McMahon don't have a spot for him, I think that's entirely true. I don't know where you put him at this point.
But for me, honestly, the guy wants to finish his career where it started. He wants to go in the Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Fame talent, period. And that's one of those things where Vince McMahon's worried about bringing him in because they don't want him to fall off the wagon, have an incident, and then they have, for lack of a better way to describe it, a Kurt Angle a situation kind of like Chris Benoit go down, and Kurt Angle is a former Olympic hero. He's Olympic champion. It wouldn't be good press. And even though he's been sober for almost a year or over a year at this point, it's one of those things where it's a risk that Vince McMahon, who doesn't have his pulse on anything at this point, doesn't have his finger on the pulse of what's going on around him, except for when he's doing an ice bucket challenge, and he knows exactly when to slip back into character. One of those things where it's a risk, and I don't know if he wants to take it. As far as Bully Ray goes, we'll talk about that. And now that he's gone from TNA, Bully Ray has gone from TNA. If you haven't read the article, if you haven't figured it out, that was announced last night, that he is no longer with the company. And obviously, I think that's what we'll see on the Wednesday Impact when Dixie Carter's talking about the fact there's a big announcement coming here soon, which I think would be, I don't know if it'll be this week. It's this week. It's this Wednesday. So we'll see what happens. I think that it's Ray gone. I'm going to call him Bubba Ray from now on because he's not Bully Ray anymore if he's not going to be in TNA. He's in the best shape of his life. He has turned out to be one phenomenal singles wrestler. He's one of the best on the microphone at this point, even with his extremely Yankee accent, if you will. Everyone loves it. He's Bubba Ray Dudley, man. He's a tag team legend, and he's worked his way into being an awesome singles competitor. I think it would benefit WWE to bring him in as a heel. Bring him in as a big time guy. I think that he would probably get cheered upon his return. But just like Triple H has done many times, just like other people that have left and come back and gotten cheered, you have to make him a heel at some point. for his singles career to be good in WWE. But man, if it's me, I'm bringing them in as a tag team again, and then you have freaking another a respectable tag team for guys to chase. And I think that if you have the Dudley Boys in WWE as a tag team, you can really put over some of these tag teams and really try to get some new tag teams that are going to be coming up, like the Ascension. As much as I like their gimmick as a tag team, if they ever try to be single stars again, it's going to ruin them. But the Vaudevillains, if you will, they're good together as a tag team. Terrible as singles competition. But it's one of those things where I think that bringing in the Dudleys would be a good asset for the WWE. Do you agree or do you disagree? Do you think they should just stay away?
Well, you can never have too many tag teams in a tag team division that has basically two teams at this point. They tried to do that with the New Age Outlaws late last year. They gave them the tag team titles at Royal Rumble, eventually dropping it to the Usos, making the Usos look like $1 million, and then getting their butts handed to them against the Shield at WrestleMania. Like you said, I'm all for Bully Ray, Bubba Ray, whatever you want to call him, coming back with Devon as a tag team. I don't see the purpose of him coming back as a single star, even though he's in tremendous shape. I think you bring them back as a tag team, do a couple of special attraction matches, put over some of the younger guys, and then you put Bubba Ray back in NXT. You make him an agent. You make him a trainer. You show some of the young guys how to draw heat as a heel, because he does it so naturally, and he proved that in TNA.
Yeah, I really think that he came into his own in TNA. That's when people try to trash TNA left and right, and there are certain things that they do well, and that's take guys that as a singles competitor weren't really going to get over in WWE. They've taken like Christian. Christian was over in TNA, dude, as a singles competitor, and when he came back, it lasted a little bit, and he never was more than an upper mid card guy in WWE. You can say that he was the world heavyweight champion. That's cool, but that's when the world heavyweight championship was exactly what the IC title used to be. And so when they take guys like that and make them, I mean, Jeff Jarrett, who wasn't allowed to be a major star in WWE, who got the push to be a world champion in WCW, Jeff Jarrett goes, of course it's his company at the time, goes to TNA and becomes the freaking main event guy every single week. Like it allowed for guys that weren't actually going to be major stars in WWE, in some way, shape, or form, WCW, it allowed them to go to TNA and hone their skills even better and get over with a crowd that loved seeing WWE guys come over and be good. One of those things where, I mean, look at K Quick. Okay, K Quick in WWE was a joke. Was a tag team competitor with the Road Dogg. No one really got behind K Quick outside of mid-card tag team action. He goes to TNA, becomes Ron Killings, goes by his name, and punishes. Is in the main event for like 3 years. It's one of those things where and he comes back to WWE. He's R-Truth, and he is where he is. He appears every now and then and gets a win over Bo Dallas for no apparent reason other than to kill Bo Dallas' streak. But it I like the fact that TNA allows a place for guys that can't get over here to go get over there, and it helped them hone their skills. Bully Ray, if you want to call him that still, Bubba Ray Dudley, honed his singles competition skills in TNA because he wasn't getting over as a single star in WWE when they split them up. They put Devon on SmackDown as Reverend Devon with Batista coming up as the Deacon, and that wasn't working either. And Bubba wasn't working as a single star either. So they put them back together as a tag team. That worked again, and then they left and went to TNA. So I think that if Bubba Ray comes back, whether it's with Devon or not, he could be an asset. And I don't expect him to be a long-term thing on TV, but it'd be cool to see him for a few months. And people are asking in the chat, and we're going to get to this because we have about 10 more minutes to really hit on Raw, and that's what I wanted. I wanted us to be able to go through Raw quickly and hit on things that we have idea-wise going forward, because right now it's all speculation. We got to watch tonight to figure out what they're going to do. But I think that I really do think that the fall is gonna test some things. Like I said earlier, I'm weary about fall WWE. They have to compete with Monday Night Football. They have to compete with Sunday Night Football. They have to compete with football every night of the week. If they're moving SmackDown to Thursdays, they're gonna have to compete with football on Thursdays. It's one of those things where the ratings go down because it doesn't necessarily have to go down. They're gonna go down because of football, but at the same time, you can spark an interest now. You have basically hit a reset button. SummerSlam hit a reset button. You can either capitalize on that reset button and make us care about the product going forward like you want us to because you want us to subscribe to the network, you want us to buy into what you're doing. You can make this reset button matter, or you can just do exactly what you did last year when you hit a reset button with Daniel Bryan, and you can kill it for the next 4 or 5 months and make us hate our lives watching WWE TV. And that's what we're going to talk about that now. Monday Night Raw is when the reset button starts. We get to see what they're planning on doing moving forward. People are asking, Randy Orton still has a rematch at some point for the title. Batista essentially has one. And it's one of these that, like, people are asking right now, do you see Batista come in and put his face in Brock Lesnar's face? Do you see Randy Orton get out there and put his face in Brock Lesnar's face tonight during the championship ceremony? Do we see John Cena come out and get in Brock Lesnar's face in the championship ceremony that he's going to have tonight? They're going to give him a new title. It's going to be one title. There's not going to be the big gold belt anymore. It's going to be one title. It's going to have the new logo on it. We've already seen pictures of it. If you haven't seen it, you can go to WrestlingRumors.net, look up. You can search for new WWE title, and you can find it. Also, I mean, you're going to see it tonight, so just watch the show. That's all you're going to do. But they're going to debut that tonight, award it to Lesnar. And in my opinion, how I would book tonight, because that's the only thing that we know. We know for a fact Lesnar and Heyman are on there. We know they're getting one belt. We know it's going to be a ceremony like they do every time they debut a new belt. Maybe even a red carpet out there. And likely, if it's authority trying to rub it in everybody's faces, you have all the other superstars come out and stand on the stage during the ceremony. But if not, man, I would send every single superstar out there that feels like that the WWE feels like could be a main event guy. Your your Sheamus, your Cesaro, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, John Cena, Randy Orton, Batista. Send everybody you can out there to go face-to-face with this guy. Even if they, because he's a monster that's dominant at this point. He beat the ever-living crap out of John Cena. He's challenged John Cena to another match if he can be brave enough to come in. I think that's exactly what we're going to see tonight. We're going to see John Cena respond, even though I don't think John Cena should be on TV. I think John Cena should be kept off of TV for the next few weeks, at least the next 2 weeks, because of the beating that he got last night. It should have. Of course, it's not his resolve because he's the champ that learns from his mistakes. It should have embarrassed him to where he didn't want to come on TV, and that he's injured and he shouldn't be there for a week at least. But I do think that we see Cena tonight. I think that they go ahead and they're going to start building towards Night of Champions. Do you think we see that? Because for me, the only match that Brock Lesnar can have at Night of Champions, since we know he's booked for it, and when he's the champion, obviously, he's going to defend that title at Night of Champions. Do we see John Cena, Brock Lesnar at Night of Champions, and how would you book that match? I know in your article earlier you gave us an idea, or you didn't even put it in the article. You actually said it in the chat. So share it with everyone. What do you think we should have at Night of Champions between Brock Lesnar and John Cena?
Well, I showed my doubts in my article over John Cena challenging Lesnar only because, considering the circumstances around SummerSlam where Cena was just dismantled by Lesnar for 20 minutes, why would I want to see that again? Just because what chance does Cena have for a second effort? You know what I mean? But, and I brought this up to you earlier, if we see Batista or someone else return tonight on Raw and they set up that as the challenger for Brock Lesnar, that could very well be the case. But I really do feel in my heart of hearts that we are going to see Brock Lesnar versus John Cena, round 3, the rubber match, so to speak, at Night of Champions. And on the path to SummerSlam, what Lesnar was talking about a lot was how he was going to make John Cena piss himself and vomit, and because he's going to be so afraid. And you even saw that during the match last night because Lesnar was talking to the referee constantly. So was Paul Heyman. Ask him if he wants to quit. Ask him if he wants to quit.
Here comes the pain! Every German suplex. Here comes the pain! That was so awesome. Just hearing Heyman and Lesnar every time German suplex. Here comes the pain! So
but John Cena, his hustle, loyalty, and respect, never give up attitude. He never surrendered during that match. So at Night of Champions, if you want to add a little twist to this whole Brock Lesnar John Cena feud, you make it an I Quit match. And I think, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think John Cena's never tapped out in his career. He's never said the words I quit. And that almost makes you think for a split second that John Cena might actually stand a chance against Brock Lesnar. And let's look back at Brock Lesnar's last 4 matches. He defeated the longest-reigning WWE champion of the last 25 years last year at SummerSlam. He went on to the Royal Rumble and just steamrolled his way through the world's largest athlete. WrestleMania, he ends the streak of The Undertaker, and last night at SummerSlam, he does the unthinkable and squashes John Cena for the title. Now, at Night of Champions, how do you culminate that? You have Brock Lesnar make John Cena say the 2 words he's never said before.
Or at least pass out, that's one of the things, they can make him pass out.
No, none of this pass-out garbage. We saw that with Jack Swagger and Rusev. We don't need to see it again. You need to have Cena say the words, I quit. That takes him off TV for the foreseeable future.
I agree. For me, I want to book this a different way. This is where I come in with the briefcase. If they want to rush the briefcase between Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, here's my idea. And yes, it's more like a Vince Russo idea because he and I think creatively. A lot of reasons I don't get predictions right. When I miss a prediction I'm usually about 60-40 on predictions at this point. It's because I think creatively and I think what they should do and not what they're actually going to do. And for me, this is how I book this as a creative guy. That the fall is going to be a struggling period for you. You're going to have to go against these football squads. You're going to have to go against all this different stuff that happens. Your ratings usually dip. You want to make it exciting. You want to make people buy this network. It's time to at least give John Cena a more aggressive character like we saw in the last couple of weeks leading forward to this match. Yes, he got the crap absolutely kicked out of him being the squeaky clean guy that he is. So now it's time to turn up the volume. And if you turn up the volume and he comes out with the chain and he does whatever he has to do, to do an I Quit match, that's cool. I'm fine with that. If we see an aggressive John Cena like we did at Extreme Rules in 2012, I'm fine with that because that was a great match, and then we get the I Quit stipulation on top of it. It's not how I would book it, though. I would book it where they come in, and even if it is an I Quit match or something like that, John Cena needs to cheat to win. Give us a little bit of a heel. You don't have to turn him completely heel because the guy's already basically a heel. He gets booed just about everywhere he goes. For me, have him be aggressive, have him cheat. Because right now, Brock Lesnar has set up a legacy of, like, you just ran through everything that he's done. He's the most aggressive, he's the most dominating guy that we've seen since his return from the UFC. He is booked as a legitimate fighter. For you that say that he should never have he should never have gotten the title last night because he's not going to be on every TV. Son, do you think legitimate fighters that work in the UFC and stuff, they work every single week? Do you see UFC on every single week? Do you see champions in the UFC defend their title every single week? Do you see them on programs on every single week? No, you don't. He's booked as a legitimate guy that came back in from where he was, that came in destroying people, breaking people's arms left and right, destroying the biggest names in the company. He's booked that way. He can do that. It's fine for him. This isn't The Rock coming back for 3 months to promote a movie. This is different. This is different. He's been with ever since he's come back, it's been 2.5 years. He's been working 4 to 5 pay-per-views a year and putting on great matches, putting people over, doing good stuff, letting people see that he's a dominant guy, that he's still good. He doesn't have to be on TV every week. Shut your mouth. No, he doesn't. Paul Heyman's on TV every week. Let him talk. He doesn't have to be there every week. But for me, if you're going to have the guy that's just been the most dominant, okay, if WWE does not want Lesnar to hold the title from now till Royal Rumble or now till WrestleMania, whatever, if you want that title to come off of him at Night of Champions, you want people to be talking about the product the night after Night of Champions on September 22nd. You want people to be tuning in because Monday Night Football is on that night. You do a huge swerve. You have John Cena tease the heel turn. You have John Cena cheat to win. Earlier in the night, you have Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins finally get each other in a steel cage, finally in a way that they can't get out of the ring. They can't go all over the arena. They're not going to do a Hell in a Cell because it's not Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell is in October, which that may be why. I mean, they may stretch this thing out to where they finally get in a cage in October. But for me, have the briefcase on the line, and Ambrose gets the briefcase. When Cena cheats to win, he's exhausted. Have Lesnar get up so pissed off that he cheated to win, Lesnar destroys Cena. Cena comes, Ambrose hits, cashes in. Ambrose is the new champion. That place would go ape if Cena wins and had to cheat to win. And Ambrose comes out to get just Ambrose music hitting would be insane. And then he comes out, he becomes the champion, and you have a heelish, you have a more aggressive John Cena going against your unstable Dean Ambrose, with Seth Rollins, getting pissed and pissy and yelling about it and bitching and moaning about it and trying to be a heel about it, trying to get involved with them as well. And you have something different. You have something interesting going forward. You have a heelish John Cena who's cheating to win now, getting in a feud with the new champion that's unpredictable, that's over, that can go in the ring, that's old school, can tell stories. I think that would be the best thing for them going forward. Brock obviously would get a rematch whenever he wants. If he's not on TV until Royal Rumble, when he comes back, maybe he faces someone at Royal Rumble for the title. If it's Dean Ambrose, that's fine. Let him beat Dean Ambrose for the title. And then if you want to set up a match between Rock and Brock at WrestleMania or Roman Reigns and Brock at WrestleMania, that's fine. Then they can, whoever wants to beat Brock Lesnar legitimately can do it then. They're not going to book it this way at all. They're not. I'm fantasy booking out of my butt right now. But for me, that would make it a lot more interesting. Or just have Cena go full-on heel and have Heyman turn on Lesnar or something like that. But that's not going to happen either. Right now, all we know is we're going to get a new title. We're going to get a new title ceremony. All this stuff's going to happen. That's going to happen on Raw tonight. We may see Bray Wyatt and Chris Jericho continue. I don't know. The 5-point preview kind of sounded like we're not going to get a third match between the two, but we'll see. We got to get a tag team match here soon for the titles. They're going to have new titles probably tonight. Hopefully, get rid of those stupid penny belts. I don't know what else we're going to see. We're definitely going to see Dean Ambrose, Kane, and Seth Rollins in a segment that builds towards their next match. Randy Orton's going to be pissed off. Triple H is going to be obviously extremely pissed that Randy Orton did not take care of Roman Reigns. We may actually get Randy Orton's face turn that they've been booking for a while. We may see the return of Sheamus to get involved with Miz and Dolph Ziggler to try to get us a unification match, maybe, at Night of Champions. I don't know, man. I'm excited. I'm excited to watch this show. When we come off of good pay-per-views like this, it makes me excited for the night after. And Walter, what are you most looking forward to tonight?
Just the coronation of Brock Lesnar as the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. I mean, this is the dawning of a new era in WWE. You got the new logo coming in. You have a new world champion, someone that's probably going to be champion for a very, very long time. And Night of Champions is just around the corner, one of the most important pay-per-views in WWE history, if only because of the network subscriptions. They want to really stack this card because they want everyone to renew it, keep filing their money into the company and whatnot. So hopefully we kind of get some early indications as to what some of those matches are going to be. Are we going to see a stipulation with Rollins and Ambrose? Are we going to see another match between Lesnar and John Cena? What happens with Chris Jericho? What happens? Do we see the tag titles defended? It's Night of Champions. There's so many questions, and I'm curious to see how this all plays out. I want to see a stacked from top to bottom Night of Champions card, and we talked about this with Vince Russo, where one of the problems WWE has is that they kind of put a lot of their emphasis on the main event matches, and we saw that with SummerSlam with Brie and Stephanie, Cena, Lesnar. I want them to focus their attention on match number 1 to match number 8 or 9, because I think that's how you get more people invested in storylines. That's how you get more people invested in the WWE network.
I agree completely, man. I'm excited for this coronation service too, because we're gonna get the next the next 4 weeks teased at us tonight, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Because the question mark now is, does Lesnar hold on to the title as a part-time guy, if you want to say that, going forward? And who are they going to book against him? It's got to be John Cena. I don't know who else they could do. So this is what we have. Get ready. The kickoff show's live now, so turn on your WWE networks wherever you want to watch it, and let's start watching this kickoff show. Sometimes they announce some cool stuff in there, so make sure you tune into that. You can deal with hearing Booker T say "shooky ducky" about 16 times before the show's over. And then, of course, Raw's at 8, and you can follow us at WrestleRumors for some live tweeting and some fun. Because, I mean, if it's a 3-hour drag, then that's what we're going to do. We're just going to have some fun. And I want you to join us while we do that. This has been Wrestling Warm-Up on WrestlingRumors.net. Doug McDonald, Chris Walter, you can follow him at Walter Sports. He'll be live tweeting during the show tonight as well. If you didn't read his piece on Brock Lesnar not having some good opponents coming forward, there's no one else but John Cena at this point. Go check that out on WrestlingRumors.net. It's very awesome. If you follow us on Facebook, you can check it out. It's probably the most organically popular story that we've had since we've started our website. So go check that out. It's very awesome. And live tweet with us, and we'll talk to you on the next one. Peace.